Hey everyone, welcome in. Today, we're going to be diving into the always interesting world of personal finance.
Always interesting.
Yeah, it's something that I think a lot of people have an opinion on and are really curious about.
Definitely.
And specifically, we're tackling Robert Kiyosaki's take on assets and liabilities.
Yeah.
You've been wanting to really understand like the heart of his approach. So we're going deep on this one today.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting is that Kiyosaki, he doesn't just lay out like definitions. Like here's what this is, here's what that is.
Yeah.
He really challenges a lot of what we kind of accept as like financial common sense.
Okay, so for those who haven't read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like cover to cover,
Right.
where does he even start with this whole like assets and liabilities thing?
Well, he kind of boils it down to just 6 words.
6 words.
6 words. That's all it is. Yeah, just 6 words.
Okay.
Income, expense, asset, liability, and cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, from those very, very simple basic terms, he kind of builds this whole other way of looking at our relationship with money.
6 words, huh? That sounds almost too simple.
Yeah.
I have a feeling there's more to it than meets the eye.
Yeah.
Especially when we start talking about like, assets and liabilities.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't a house an asset? That's what we're always told.
Well, and that's where Kiyosaki throws a little bit of a curveball.
Okay.
Because he says, not so fast.
Yeah.
He argues that if something is constantly taking money out of your pocket,
Okay.
like those, never-ending mortgage payments, property taxes, and all those surprise repairs you got to make on your house,
Ugh, tell me about it.
it's actually acting as a liability.
Whoa. Okay, so it's not just about owning something, it's about the money, the flow.
Absolutely.
If it's pulling it out of your pocket instead of putting it in, that's a problem.
That is a big problem.
My starter home is not sounding so impressive anymore.
Yeah, well, and that's a perfect example of how Kiyosaki wants us to be thinking differently.
Okay.
He says, a true asset, it should put money back in your pocket.
Okay.
And the example he uses, which I love, is he talks about his very first apartment.
Okay.
And he bought it when he was 25, and he rented it out, and boom, positive cash flow from day one.
See, now that's what I'm talking about. That makes sense.
Right.
So owning like a rental property, that's a very classic Kiyosaki asset.
Absolutely.
But what about things like, say, my retirement account? Surely my 401k is an asset, right?
Ah, the 401k question.
Yeah.
This is where Kiyosaki, he ruffles some feathers.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He's been very critical of traditional retirement accounts.
Interesting.
He argues that you're constantly putting money in, which, sounds a lot like a liability if you think about it, right?
Yeah.
And there's no guarantee of what you'll actually get back or when.
Hold on. Are you saying my financial advisor has been like leading me astray this whole time? Because I put a decent chunk of my paycheck into that 401k every month.
It's not necessarily about being right or wrong, but it's about understanding that there are different perspectives, right?
Okay.
And I think Kiyosaki, he really wants us to question, like, those assumptions we make about, what a sound investment is. Is that money working for me right now? Or am I just putting it in and hoping it's going to be there someday down the line?
So he's pushing us to be really critical about where our money is going and if it's truly generating income for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Kiyosaki doesn't stop at real estate or retirement accounts, right?
No, he does not.
He takes this idea of assets and liabilities to like a whole other level, and it's a little controversial.
It is.
He suggests that even people can be liabilities.
That's right.
Whoa.
He argues that while relationships are obviously incredibly valuable,
Of course.
if we're being honest, certain relationships can create a financial strain.
Okay.
And he's not just talking about like spouses or partners. He's talking about, he brings up children,
Okay.
aging parents, even friends who might be a little too reliant on us.
Okay. I can already see how this could make people uncomfortable.
Yeah,
I mean, putting a price tag on relationships feels kind of icky.
sure.
But I'm also intrigued.
Yeah.
I am curious to unpack this idea a little bit further.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm starting to see how this like ties back to his whole emphasis on cash flow.
Right.
Because if you're constantly like struggling to keep up with expenses, whether they're related to housing or your lifestyle or even like family,
Right.
it's going to be that much harder to start building, real wealth.
Exactly. Yeah. And Kiyosaki argues that, a lot of people, even those with high incomes,
Okay.
they get trapped in this cycle where their money is constantly flowing out to cover all these expenses. And then there's very little left to actually put towards, assets that could actually generate more income.
It's like that saying, living paycheck to paycheck, but like on a larger scale.
Precisely, yeah.
And that's where I guess like his definition of financial intelligence comes in.
Yeah.
It's not about how much you earn, but like how you manage what you have. And more importantly, how you direct your money to work for you.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's about being more, I don't know, strategic, more intentional with our spending and our investing.
Absolutely.
Instead of just assuming that, oh, this is an asset, this is a liability.
Right.
We need to look at it through this lens of cash flow and say, okay, is this actually helping me build wealth, or is it draining my resources?
That's the heart of it, yeah. And he really wants us to challenge these like ingrained beliefs that we have about money, to start thinking for ourselves a little bit,
Interesting.
And he even takes it a step further.
Okay.
He suggests that this asset versus liability mindset, it can actually be applied to other areas of our lives, not just finances.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Tell me more about this. I'm very curious.
Well, think about it. Just like we can have financial assets and liabilities, we would also have like time assets and time liabilities.
Okay. I think I see where you're going with this. Like, okay, so let's say I'm really passionate about learning, I don't know, a new language.
Okay.
And I dedicate like an hour every evening to, studying, practicing, really immersing myself in that language.
Yeah.
Would that be like a time asset?
I think you could definitely look at it that way, because it's something that you're actively cultivating.
Right.
That has this potential to, enrich your life in so many ways, maybe even open up new opportunities down the line.
Okay, so I'm with you so far, but what would be like the flip side of that?
Yeah.
What would be the time liability in that scenario?
Well, think about like how you spend the rest of your free time.
Okay.
Maybe you're, scrolling through social media for hours.
Oh, tell me about it.
Binge watching shows that don't really interest you.
Yeah.
Or getting caught up in like these unproductive arguments online.
Yeah.
These activities, while they might provide like some temporary amusement,
Right.
they're also draining your energy. They're just distracting you from your goals.
Okay.
And they don't really offer much of a return on your investment, so to speak.
This is blowing my mind. I've never thought about it in those terms before.
Yeah.
But it makes so much sense because we always talk about like wasting time or spending your time wisely.
Right.
But framing it in terms of assets and liabilities, I feel like it just makes it much more tangible, more impactful,
It does. And that's exactly what Kiyosaki's trying to do,
Okay.
He wants us to see that the concept of assets and liabilities, this idea of managing our resources effectively,
Okay.
it applies to all areas of our lives.
Wow.
It helps us make, more conscious, intentional choices about how we spend our time,
Okay.
our energy, and yes, our money.
So like if we take this whole time asset idea even further,
Okay.
it makes you wonder like what about our relationships? Could those be considered assets or liabilities too?
I mean, you're really getting into it now.
Right.
Kiyosaki, he focuses on the financial side of things.
Yeah.
But this whole idea of what's adding value to your life
Okay.
versus what's draining it,
Yeah.
that's something you could apply to anything, really.
So let's say, okay, you have this friend
Okay.
and they're constantly negative.
Yeah.
Always complaining, always bringing you down. You care about them, but like every time you spend time with them,
Yeah.
you leave feeling drained and discouraged.
Right.
Would Kiyosaki say that relationship is a liability?
He might ask you to consider,
Okay.
is that relationship like energizing you in any way? Is it supporting you, helping you grow, become a better version of yourself?
Yeah.
Or is it kind of subtly holding you back?
Okay.
Reinforcing, these limiting beliefs that you might have.
Yeah.
Maybe even preventing you from like going after what you really want in life.
It's like that saying like, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Oh, I've heard that one. Yeah.
Like, are those 5 people lifting you up?
Right.
Or are they dragging you down?
Exactly. And it's not about, just writing people off or
Right.
becoming like ruthlessly transactional with your relationships.
Right, of course.
But it's about just being honest with yourself about the impact they're having on you,
Okay.
both financially and just, emotionally, your well-being.
It's about making conscious choices about where we're investing our energy, right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Because time and energy, I mean, those are really our most precious resources.
they are.
And honestly, this whole conversation is making me think about like all the stuff I have,
Oh, wait.
all the stuff I've accumulated over the years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I love my gadgets and my books and my vintage video game collection, but like,
Yeah.
are those really assets?
Right.
Or are they just like liabilities disguised as like sentimental value?
That is a great question.
Right.
And it's one that, Kiyosaki wants us to be asking ourselves about everything that we own.
Okay.
He challenges us to look beyond just like the initial purchase price.
Right.
And really consider, what are the ongoing costs?
Okay.
The maintenance, the storage,
Yeah.
even just the mental energy it takes to manage all that stuff.
So it's not just about the actual money that we spend, but like the time and the energy that we're pouring into these things.
100%. And if those things aren't generating income for you, if they're not like actively contributing to your goals or like, enhancing your life in some way, then they might be holding you back more than you realize.
This has been a real eye-opener.
It is interesting stuff, isn't it?
It's like I've been looking at my finances and honestly my whole life through the wrong lens.
Yeah, it's easy to do.
Kiyosaki's perspective, it's definitely challenging.
It is.
But it's also incredibly empowering.
And that's the beauty of it.
Right.
It's by shifting our perspective, by questioning these assumptions that we have, and really understanding, these fundamental principles of assets and liabilities, that we can start making, more intentional choices that align with our values and really move us closer to, the life we want to be living.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into the world of Robert Kiyosaki, I feel like the biggest takeaway here isn't just about building wealth.
Right.
It's about building a life.
Right.
Absolutely. Your pension of purpose.
Intention and purpose, yeah.
It's about identifying those hidden liabilities, whether they're financial drains or time wasters or even just, relationships that zap our energy and making choices that free us to focus on the things that really matter.
Beautifully said. It's about recognizing that we actually have more control than we sometimes think we do.
Yeah.
And that even small shifts, in our mindset, in our habits, can make a huge difference in the long run.
That is something worth thinking about.
It is.
Well, hey, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Absolutely, yeah. This is great.
Until next time, everyone, keep exploring.
Keep exploring.
Keep questioning.
Yeah.
And keep building a life filled with assets that truly matter.
Couldn't have said it better myself.